Hello! Vertical development is all about elevating our cognitive and emotional sophistication. Now, this can have huge implications for leaders, and I want to demonstrate that by using Microsoft CEOs as an example. We're going to first look at Steve Ballmer, who was CEO from 2000 to 2014, and then we're going to look at Satya Nadella, who's been CEO since 2014. So let's start off by watching a clip of Steve Ballmer in action here. And let's, just as we watch this clip, ask ourselves, does this feel cognitively and emotionally sophisticated to me? Let's watch it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Ballmer! I have 4 words for you. I love this company. Yes!
All right, so that video isn't of the highest quality. It's the best I could find on YouTube, but this is something that Steve Ballmer is known for, is rocking out on stage. So this is Steve Ballmer. Let's now turn to Satya Nadella and just sense if you feel anything different from him as you hear him speak. In fact, the first part of this video, what you're going to hear is the very first thing that he said to Microsoft employees when he was put in as CEO, and then he'll dive into a little bit of his background that has molded how he operates now as a leader.
You know, this business of ours is an exciting business. And one of the core things that we've got to realize is that this business does not really respect tradition. What it respects is innovation on a go-forward basis. So it's really our collective challenge that we now need to make Microsoft thrive in a mobile-first and a cloud-first world. That's the core challenge that we collectively have to face up to. And I cannot be more honored, more humbled, and more excited about Microsoft and our opportunity. Thank you. Thank you.
What may have been the biggest challenge for Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella came much earlier in his career.
I was 29 when Zain was born. For my wife Anu and me, he was our first child.
At that time, there was no way for Nadella to know how the birth of his son Zain back in 1996 would change his outlook on life.
The night he was born, everything changed because he was born because of in utero asphyxiation with severe case of cerebral brain damage, which led to cerebral palsy. And then, you know, in all honesty, for a few years thereafter, I was really thrown, a real curveball because all my plans were out, and I sort of said, why did this happen to me? What happened to us?
Questions that continued as Zain grew. He's now 21 years old. He's nonverbal and requires a wheelchair to get around. Nadella says for him, watching his wife put together a team of doctors and therapists all dedicated to help Zain changed everything.
And that's what I think ultimately woke me up to recognize that nothing happened to me. Something happened to Zain, and it was my responsibility as a father to step up.
It sounds like it's changed who you are as a father. How's it changed how you are as a CEO?
That realization, that ability to see through others' eyes, I think is one of those hard lessons one only learns through one's own life's experience. But it shapes you, not just at home, but as a leader.
Over here, what you are doing?
Empathy that Nadella says serves him every day.
I think where technology is going is to really help empower more people to be able to accomplish more. And that's, I think, a responsibility we have.
What drives you professionally?
As a CEO, ultimately I do take accountability for the culture that we create. The 100,000 plus people in the company, I want them all to be able to find this Microsoft platform to be useful in them finding deep meaning in their work.
What drives you personally as a husband and a father?
The importance of being able to find that harmony between your life and your work, I think is so important.
Are you getting closer?
Some days I get, and some days I regress, but each day I try to get better.
Powerful stuff. Do you feel the difference between Steve Ballmer and Satya Nadella? Now, let me point out some other things that I've learned about both of these two men as CEOs. One, as you saw with Steve Ballmer, whenever he entered a room, it was like a rock show. It was loud. It was all about inspiration. Well, Satya Nadella operates in a different way. This isn't a time to rock out. It's a time to elevate through clarity and through purpose. I think you heard that initially and even as he was being interviewed. Steve Ballmer never developed a mission statement during his tenure, but that was one of the first things that Satya Nadella focused on. Steve Ballmer thought that competitors were evil. He never wanted to work with Apple, Google, or Amazon. But that's something that Satya Nadella wanted to do right away. In fact, he took an iPhone out of his pockets in one of his first public speaking events. He knew that they could gain greater market share if they could collaborate with their competitors, and that's something that they've been able to do. Also, Steve Ballmer, he developed a stack rank performance management system within Microsoft as a way to help identify top talent. But what it ended up doing is it fueled competition and killed collaboration within the culture at Microsoft. So when Satya Nadella took over as CEO, he says that the C in CEO stands for curator of culture. It became his focus to develop the culture at Microsoft, and you got a sense of that again in his interview. So it feels like Steve Ballmer and Satya Nadella, they have very similar tools, very similar skill sets, very similar experience, but they seem to operate at completely different levels of vertical development. Steve Ballmer operates on what I call Mind 2.0, where his internal operating system is programmed to focus on standing out. Satya Nadella seems to be operating in Mind 3.0, where he's programmed to not stand out, but to contribute, to add value, and to lift. I mean, the difference that these two CEOs have had on Microsoft has been remarkable. During Steve Ballmer's tenure, this Microsoft stock price and market capitalization stayed about the same. But since Satya Nadella has taken over as CEO, Microsoft's stock price and market capitalization is up about 6 times what it was in 2014. The difference has been remarkable. And that's the difference that a vertically developed leader can have. Now, how do we become vertically developed? Well, one of the things that we saw with Satya Nadella, and I loved his quote, he says, the situation with his son woke him up. Oftentimes we do. We need an experience that wakes us up. Now, we could wait around for a crisis to occur, or we could wake up under our own power and our own volition. It requires deep learning. But if we can engage in this deep learning, awaken to ourselves, and I think what we need to do is we need to dig deeper within us. I have a working hypothesis that the deeper we go in terms of our introspection, the higher we go in terms of our vertical development. So I hope this provides some greater incentive for you to vertically develop and to also focus on vertical development when working with your organization's leaders.